Hey folks, this is Pastor Jim from Crosspoint Church in Bettendorf, Iowa. I think one of the most difficult things for us to do as people of faith is to live our lives without compromise, to live our lives with the courage of our convictions. I think this has always been true for the people of God. It certainly was true with Gideon. Here's a guy who was one of the great liberators of Israel, one of their heroes. And with just a handful of soldiers, he drove out a horde of Midianites and liberated the nation. But the last half of his life is characterized by compromise. And the result, of course, was that when he died, the nation descended into idolatry. His son Abimelech set himself up as king, something you weren't supposed to do for the nation of Israel, wasn't supposed to do. To consolidate power, Abimelech kills his 70 brothers, and the nation plummets into chaos, into civil war, and it's just a nightmare. And of course, the story of Abimelech is really the story of Gideon's failure to live true to his God. And looking back on his life more than 3,000 years later, we don't know all of the details of how Gideon compromised his faith, but I would suspect it probably looks a lot like we do today. It begins with the way that he worships. He begins to worship not as God instructed him to worship, but begin to worship him according to the characteristics of the surrounding world. It begins in his social and his domestic life, where he begins to take on lots of different wives, something that he wasn't supposed to do, and that even impacted his political life. He probably had people in his life telling him, it's good for you to take on all these wives and to have all these children because it consolidates power and it builds relationships with the surrounding nations. But the problem is he wasn't supposed to be doing that. It probably even had an impact on the way that he raised his kids. Everything that we read seems to indicate that he raised them according to the wisdom of the surrounding world, not according to the law of Moses. In all these areas of his life, he compromised, and that, of course, is the problem with compromise. It doesn't just show up. It happens, it sneaks in like a thief in the night, and we compromise in this little area, then we compromise in this area, and then we compromise in another area, until pretty soon we're compromising in lots of areas, and the results are disastrous. How do we keep compromise from creeping into our lives? Well, at Crosspoint Church, we believe that it begins with what we call redemptive relationships. People that we have in our life that will encourage us, strengthen us, and even rebuke us when we're heading down a destructive path. If Gideon had these people in his life, I would suggest to you that the result would have been very, very different. We're going to talk more about this Sunday at 10 o'clock, and I hope you can join us on our campus here on Spruce Hills. But if you can't, tune into Facebook Live and join us there. Either way, we'd love to have you with us this Sunday at 10 o'clock. Thanks for watching.